Hey everybody, Alan here, the science guy from Discovery Naturals, answering a question about how to apply our beard dye. Our natural beard dye is very different than the chemical guys, just for the name. And so the Just for Men product that's out there is chemicals, and you sort of paint it on with a brush. Well, our product is different. It requires a different application method. You use the powder, mix it with water. Sometimes you add a little bit of salt. Sometimes you will need to add a little bit of an acidic component like vinegar or apple cider vinegar. Anyway, the instructions detail all of that, but how to apply it, you scoop it with your fingers, like two fingers like this. You scoop it up. Wear a glove because it will color your skin on your hand if you leave it on there for a long time. It won't color the skin on your scalp or your face, but scoop it up with your fingers with a glove and literally press it into the bristles like this. This is what you want to be doing. You want to apply it by pressing it into the bristles. You want to get it all the way down to the skin and then make sure the entire portion of hair is covered by the paste. If you can see hairs that aren't covered by paste, it's not going to color them. That's the difference between a chemical product that you can just paint on with a little brush and using a natural product. It does take longer. I personally leave it on when I do color, which I haven't yet, but I will be soon. When I color, I leave it on for about an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes. It must stay moist. Keep that in mind. You must keep the paste moist. That means either putting some sort of plastic wrap from your kitchen over the top of the paste once it's applied to keep the moisture in, or using a spray bottle to keep it moist and not letting it dry out. Our offices are here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's very dry, so it dries out really quickly. And if it dries, it's no longer coloring. So keep that in mind when you do your application to your beard. So as I said, make sure you use plenty of powder to create a thick pancake-like, almost frosting-like mixture of the paste to apply to your beard. Make sure you cover it really heavily and then wait the prescribed amount of time. Like I said, about an hour 15 to an hour and 30 minutes, and then rinse thoroughly and wait. If by chance after you do that, the white like I have here sometimes can be difficult to color, and therefore you may need to do a second application. Most problems are solved by doing a second application. And one of the questions we get is, should I strand test? Should I spot test? The answer is yes, you should. Always strand test and spot test. Strand testing for me, not really possible. I don't have the strands to test, really. It'd be more of a spot test on somebody like me with short hair. For a woman or a man who has longer hair, you could always strand test on some of the strands underneath here. How do you do that? You mix up the paste, you coat the hair in it, you wrap it in plastic wrap from your kitchen, and make sure it stays moist. Or if it's a spot test, you apply it thickly enough to coat the hair. Remember, if it's not coating the hair and fully coating the hair from bottom to top, from root to tip, it is not coloring. And if you let it dry, it's not coloring. So keep that in mind always. And remember something, that when you strand test, it has to stay moist. So you would put a spot, maybe wherever you want, maybe under here, maybe over here, and then you would need to cover it with some kind of plastic wrap, or keep it moist with a spray bottle, like that, in order to see how the strand test works. This will tell you what color you're going to get with the color you've applied in your particular hair color. Hair color is like a fingerprint. Remember that. That's why they can use it to solve crime. Your hair is unlike anybody else's, so you need to test, and strand testing and spot testing is the only way to do it. Hope that answers your question. One of the questions that we get is, how do you properly apply your natural hair color? It's very important that you use a sufficient amount of powder to create the paste. When you do, you should be mixing it with water. Distilled water is good. If you don't have distilled water, you can use regular tap water. But the bottom line is, when you mix it, you want to mix it thick enough so that it's like pancake batter or like ketchup. It's got to be thick. It should stick. And it could be even as thick as, say, cake frosting. So you need it to be thick enough, and you need to use enough paste to coat the hair. If it's not touching the hair, it's not coloring the hair. If it dries out when you apply it during the hour and a half, 3 hours, however long you're leaving it on for your particular application technique, In my case, I leave it on about an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes, but everybody's different. We recommend that you go longer at first, and then you can always shorten it as you go forward. Now, as far as how much paste to use, you need to coat the hair from root to tip. If it's not coated and it's not covered, it's not coloring. Just remember that. Hope that answers your question. And one of the questions we often get is, can I use your hair color after I have chemically colored my hair? That's a difficult question, and it goes back to the fact that you should always strand test before you do a full application. Strand testing is really important, or spot testing. Spot testing would be doing a little spot. Strand testing would be taking some strands from underneath in the back. Obviously, my hair is short. Can't really do that, but spot testing would be something a man would do with short hair like mine. A woman could do strand testing on her hair. The reason you want to do that is because the chemicals contain a lot of different things, so you don't know how they're going to react to a natural product like ours. So it's always best to strand or spot test before you do a full application. So the answer is yes, but always strand or spot test. Should the hair be wet or dry when applying the natural hair color? The answer to that is, I recommend that you keep your hair damp. So if you're washing it with a natural shampoo before you color it, make sure there's no oils or conditioners in that shampoo, and do not condition your hair before you color. And then towel it dry, leave it damp. It'll be easier to work the color paste into your hair. So the answer to the question is, damp hair is probably good. You can do it on non-shampooed hair, by the way. That's not an issue. But if you want to shampoo it, just make sure it doesn't have any oils, because that would prevent the penetration of the natural hair color into the hair. So that's it. That's the answer to the question. Thanks. See you next time. Hey everybody, Alan here, the science guy from Discovery Naturals, answering some of your questions about our natural hair dye. One of the questions we get is, can I do highlights with your product? The answer is yes, but it depends on whether or not your hair has gray in it. So if you have salt and pepper, kind of like I do, if I apply a light brown, it's going to look like highlights. Wherever there is gray hair, it's going to look like light brown highlights. So if your hair has dark and light tones to it, and you add a slightly lighter tone than your actual darker hair, it's going to look like highlights. So just know that any light hair that you color with a light, one of our light colors like light brown or strawberry blonde or something like that, is going to give you what appears to be highlights. You cannot lighten hair with our products. That requires chemicals, and so you would not be able to lighten dark hair to highlight it with our products. That would require bleach and peroxide. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Questions about how often can you apply your hair color? The answer is as often as you like, really. Our hair dye lasts a very long time on the hair, generally between 4 and 8 weeks. It fades naturally, so you can apply as often as you need. In fact, some people will apply multiple times in the same day. Why would they do that? Because sometimes when you have white or gray like I do, it's hard to color. And so you end up needing to do multiple applications in order to color it. That often occurs on the first go around, but it's a small percentage of the people that actually need to do that. White and gray hair tends to be more difficult to color, and so sometimes it requires a second application. So the answer to the question of whether or not and how often you can use our product is simply that you can use it really as often as you like or as you need. Hope that answers the question. Thanks. See you next time. One of the questions we get is, do you need to use distilled water with our products? It's a good idea. Distilled water is pure water. It's not going to have any chemicals in it. Most of the municipal waters and well water that are around the United States have chemicals and minerals and salts and metals in them. So it's best to use distilled water if you have it available. You don't have to, but it's cheap to get. A gallon is like 99 cents or less at your local store. So if you can, certainly worthwhile to use. A lot of the municipal waters and well waters contain other contaminants, so they're not pure. So that's the answer to the question. Thanks. See you next time. What do I do if my hair turns a reddish color or I get some reddish tones in my hair? The reason that is happening is because we use natural plant dyes in our products, and one of those is henna. Henna is a reddish colored plant dye. It's reddish to reddish brown. And so sometimes people's hair will absorb more of the henna than the other plant dyes that are in the color that they're using. In that case, you need to increase the amount of the effectiveness of the other plant dyes in the product. So how do you do that? One of the ways is by adding a teaspoon of salt to the entire bag of hair color. This is going to make it turn a darker color. It's going to enhance the effect of what usually is the indigo, which is the other plant-based dye in our natural hair colors. So the solution is reapply, normally reapply, with the additional salt added to it. And certainly if you happen to be using or did use in the first application an acidic component, which increases the red. Again, this is all detailed in our instruction sheet. If you used an acidic component, do not use it in the reapplication process. You won't need it. The acidic component, like vinegar or apple cider vinegar or lemon juice, increases the redness of all of the colors. So if you want to increase redness, you add acidic components to the mixture. So you mix it with water, you add the vinegar, lemon juice, or apple cider vinegar. That will enhance the red tones of the colors that we have, our natural hair colors. If you want to enhance the darker, browner, or black components, you want to add the salt component, the table salt component. I hope that answers your question. If you have further questions, you can always call us 702-967-0755 or email us at help@discoverynaturals.com. Thanks. We'll see you next time. One of the questions we get is, what do I do if my hair turns green? Well, actually, what's happening when your hair turns green is that you're not using enough powder, meaning you're not using enough paste, which means you're getting what we call partial coloring, not full coloring. The solution is usually really simple. Second application with the right amount of powder, creating the right amount of paste and applying that right amount of paste to your hair and or beard and mustache. So what you need to do is make sure that you're using enough powder to create a thick enough paste and then applying enough of that paste to cover the hairs completely. If the paste is not touching your hairs, then it is not coloring. The other thing is, if you let the paste dry, it is no longer coloring. Any of those mistakes can result in your hair not coloring fully and giving you what will look like a green tinge. So what you need to do is make sure that you use enough paste to create a pancake batter like thickness, even like a frosting like thickness, so that the paste is thick enough, meaning you've used enough powder, and then you apply it and press it into the bristles of the beard or mustache and get it down to the root and get it all the way covering the hair and smooth it over the top. Same thing in the hair. You need to get it down to the root and then covering the hair completely. Do not skimp on the amount of powder you use to make your paste, and do not skimp on the amount of paste you use to color your hair. So that's the key. Those are the things you need to do, and reapply if you get a green tinge, and it should resolve the problem for you. As always, if you have any other questions or need urgent questions answered, you can always contact us. Hey everybody, this is Alan here, the science guy from Discovery Naturals, answering your questions about our natural hair color and beard and mustache colors. And one of the questions we get is, what do I do if my hair turns a purplish color? This tends to happen with our darker toned colors, like our darkest brown or dark brown and black colors. And so the reason for that is that the hair is absorbing more of the indigo than the henna component. Those are the two plant dyes that make up most of our darker colors. And when you absorb more of the indigo, it's going to give it more of a purplish tone. So what do you do about it? Well, reapply. Adding vinegar, lemon juice, or apple cider vinegar to enhance the redder tones to tone down that purplish color. Normally, a reapplication would be necessary to do that, because if you've got the purplish tones, you're going to want to reapply. The other step you can take after you've tried that, if that doesn't work, it means your hair is really stubbornly taking more of the indigo color, which is a bluish black color, and creating that purplish tone. you need to do a two-step process, which means that you need to apply pure henna powder first, then apply the black natural hair color afterward. Those are the things that you would do to solve the problem. So that's how you solve the problem of your hair turning a slight purplish tint. Thanks, everybody. As always, if you have questions, give us a call, 702-967-0755, or email us at help@discoverynaturals.com. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time. We often get questions about, should I add salt? Should I add vinegar? Should I add lemon juice? Should I add apple cider vinegar? Should I add black tea? Etc. So let's take them one by one. Should I add salt to my mixture? Salt is going to enhance the darker tones, enhancing the indigo plant dye in the product. So the indigo plant dye is enhanced, making the color darker shade than it would normally be. And so some people might want to do that. If you know your hair tends to absorb reddish tones, you might want to add the teaspoon of salt to the entire package, the 100-gram package of our natural hair color. Now, another question. Should I add vinegar or lemon juice or apple cider vinegar? All of those are acidic ingredients. Those are going to enhance the red tones, the reddish brown tones of our hair colors. So if you're using one of our strawberry blondes, our light red, our dark red, or one of our other reds like our natural red or our wine red, or even our auburn, which has reddish tones, and you want to enhance those red tones, you might want to add a small amount of lemon juice or vinegar or apple cider vinegar or something like that. That will enhance the reddish red tones of any of our hair colors. So only add that component if you want to enhance the red tones. As far as black tea goes, or black coffee, some people say you should add black tea or black coffee brewed cold, not hot. Never add hot water or hot tea or hot coffee because it can scorch the henna and the plant dyes can get damaged by those hot liquids. So always use room temperature or colder liquids. And so what you want to do is only add those to get darker shades, darker tones. If you're looking for a black or a very dark brown, you can add cold brewed coffee or cold tea, black tea, to your mixture. Okay, hope that answers your questions regarding what you should add or what you shouldn't add to our natural hair colors. One of the questions we get is, can you lighten hair with your hair colors? The answer to that is no, you cannot. The only way to lighten hair is by using chemicals, toxic chemicals like bleach or peroxide or both. We cannot do that. We don't contain chemicals. We can only darken hair. So, for example, if you have black hair and you put our natural red on your hair, it will not color your natural black hair to a natural red. We cannot lighten your hair. If you use a strawberry blonde on a dark brown, your hair will not become strawberry blonde. Okay? Now, the only way that you can lighten hair would be to pre-bleach and peroxide your hair to lighten it and then apply a natural color like ours, like a strawberry blonde. We don't recommend that because, quite honestly, it's damaging to the hair and your health potentially. So don't use chemicals. What you can do is, if you're gray like me and you have salt and pepper and you apply a strawberry blonde, if I wanted to do that to my gray hair, the gray would become strawberry blonde, looking like highlights or looking like strawberry blonde, whichever the case may be. So if I apply a natural red to my hair, my grays will turn natural red. The dark hair that I have will not. Now, if you apply a natural red or a wine red to black, you'll probably get a reddish hue, especially in the sun, to your black hair. Some people like that. It's quite nice. Now, if you apply our colors to your hair, it's going to make your hair shiny and healthy and look thicker. That's for sure. But it will not lighten your hair. So I hope that answers your question. Hey everybody, Alan here, the science guy from Discovery Naturals, answering your questions about our natural hair color. One of the questions we get is, do you need to let our hair color sit before applying it for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? The answer to that is no, you do not need to let our hair color sit. Our hair colors are finely ground and finely sifted, which means that when you mix them with water, there's more surface area in contact with the water, which means they're activated immediately and starting to release their color immediately. So you want to apply them immediately after you mix them. The only time you would want to delay, as it says in our instructions, is if you're getting too much of the blue or purplish tones which come from the indigo plant dye. By delaying application a little bit, you will enhance the reddish tones and decrease the bluish purplish tones. So you might want to wait 15 minutes in that situation. But if you're not sure about that, you want to apply right away. Again, one of the things we always say, strand test and spot test. For me, I can't strand test. I don't have long enough hair. A spot test would mean putting a spot here or a spot here, or somewhere where you can't really see it, to see how your hair takes our natural hair colors and see if you have any issues with more reddish tones or more bluish purplish tones. And if you do, you adjust your application technique accordingly. So hope that answers your question regarding needing to delay application or not. As always, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us via phone 702-967-0755 or email us at help@discoverynaturals.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks.